What's up, Buncombe? It's Abby, and today we're here with Sara Disher Ratliff, who is running for Buncombe County School Board, and we are here with Kay Olson, who is the chair of FixBuncombe.com. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Hey.
So, I am going to let Miss Kay run the show on this one, so have at it.
Raise a flag of liberty, the land of the free, rejecting tyranny.
Hey, Sarah, and welcome to Fix Buncombe. As you know, we're doing a podcast so that we get to know and understand our candidates better. So we are very interested in why you decided to run and what are your goals as a representative on the school board.
Well, I am very interested in trying to make it to where parents are actually heard by the school board. To give you some background on me, I am a Buncombe County native, excuse me, and I am the mother of four. I have four children in three different schools currently in Buncombe County. And as a working parent, I see the struggle every single day that parents and myself go through when it comes down to everything from communication to involvement to context. And I really feel that an actual parent and a working parent at that actually needs to be one of the representatives on the school board, because as of right now, there is one individual on the school board who actually has a child in the system. Out of all seven, there's one.
Just one?
Correct. So, and they have a high schooler, or I think two high schoolers, if that. So I really don't think that you can make decisions for the 20,000+ children that we have within Buncombe County schools without having a child in the system, because you don't really have any skin in the game. So I really want to represent parents. So one of the biggest things that I've had issue with over the course of the 13 years that I have been working or have had children in the Buncombe County school system is the lack of communication when it comes down to events that are occurring at schools. So what I did is I reached out to the Asheville Chamber of Commerce and I requested the top 20 employers in Buncombe County. And of those 20 employers, I reached out to all of them and 13 of them responded. And I took an average as to their HR policy regarding time off. And the average time off requirement for all of these businesses is 2 weeks, which is very normal for most businesses nowadays. So what that tells me is that it needs to be in writing that any school event that is actually held at a school or sanctioned by the school, at very minimum parents need to be given 2 weeks notice to attend it. I don't know why that seems to be such an issue, but I can't tell you how many times I get a week's notice or a couple days. And it's, yes, whenever you have children, oftentimes you have issues to where they don't give you information. But most of the time they have a folder that they get once a week, especially in elementary school. And you get that notification for something that's going to happen that very week. So I think that if we're going to get parents really back involved, we need to be courteous to the fact that they need to have plenty of time in order to arrange their schedule to be more involved in their children's education.
What is one thing that you think is working well for the Buncombe County schools? And then after that, I will ask you, what is one thing that you don't think is working so well at the Buncombe County schools?
I think the one thing that I have noticed over the years of having children in the schools, in high school, middle, and elementary schools, and being involved. I was recently on the Parent Advisory Council for one of the local high schools. I attend different meetings and that kind of thing. I will say that in my interactions with both teachers and administrators, I can absolutely wholeheartedly see the passion that these people have for my children and the children that they work with. I don't think that can ever be discounted. And I really, truly think that the majority of individuals who work in the Buncombe County school system are there for the right reason, and they're doing what they love.
So it's more of a passion for them than a career for them, I think.
Absolutely.
Is what you're looking at.
A lot of them look at it as a calling. I mean, they absolutely positively know the massive impact that they're having on these children's lives.
Okay. And of course, now we go with, what is the one thing that you think is a real problem here?
I think the biggest thing right now is the disconnect between the individuals making choices and the people below them. When Tony Baldwin, the previous superintendent, retired and they went on a search and found a new superintendent in Dr. Rob Jackson, I think that was a phenomenal choice. Dr. Jackson came through the Buncombe County system. He actually started as a janitor at Bell Elementary School and worked his way through college and as a teacher and an administrator and now as a superintendent. And he has a lot of really amazing vision, and he believes in public education, he believes in teachers, and he believes in the stakeholders within the county, and he's shown that. But I think that the people around him aren't necessarily giving him all of the tools that he might think that we need. And I think that's very evident in the fact that a lot of the decisions that are not made with the perspective of a parent. And I think that really needs to change. Right now, you're looking at the fact that the majority of people that are on the board are former educators. I have absolutely no background in education whatsoever. And I think that that's a perspective that's needed. I think we need a perspective beyond the classroom that gives us a voice that we might not necessarily have heard before.
Okay. There is a big push, or there is an increase in the number of parents that are homeschooling their children. How do we get them back into the public school system?
I think the biggest thing that we need to do is really look at the reasons why. I know that there was a very large homeschool, I'm trying to think of the word I want to use, departure after COVID, because a lot of parents, they were like, hey, I did this myself at home anyway, I might as well just continue it and do it my way as it goes. Technology has changed a lot of that as well, and I know that in the people that I've spoken to, a lot of people choose homeschool because the curriculum they have more control over. I think we really kind of need to sit back and take a look at the curriculum and make it more available to parents. I think the individuals who choose homeschooling, the majority of them, they want that hands-on approach to what their children are learning. And because, you've got pros and cons when it comes down to technology. And as wonderful as it is, our kids are tethered to devices that a lot of parents don't have access to. So, and I've got a good solution for that I can talk about in a second. But the one thing that I think is that having a much more open curriculum conversation that parents can see in a tangible manner is going to get them to understand that public education is not the enemy that they think that it is. I think you also have to look at it from the perspective of times have really changed. I know when I was in school, that was just everybody went to public school, and you had some people that went to private school, and homeschooling was not done as often. Technology has made it to where curriculums and options are readily available, and they're inexpensive. And so I don't know if we're necessarily going to get them all back, but I definitely think that there's steps that we can take to actually kind of go back after these homeschool kids and get them back into a public setting.
What do you think of the curriculum now in the school? Are we lacking on subjects? Do we need to go back to some basics? And if so, what are some of the key ones that you would look at?
I think that it's really, really hard to kind of gauge that, and that's because the only thing that I'm really looking at right now and the experience that I have is what my children have done. I am very lucky in the sense, though, that I do have 2 children who fall under the exceptional child condition. So I've seen it from different levels, and then I also have a child who does all honors and AP. So I've seen kind of the gamut of how that works. It's very hard to tell you yes or no that there are certain things that we need to add, specifically because I'm not able to see a lot of it. I know that when my oldest son was doing AP history, I was trying to follow along on his computer on the PowerPoint presentations that were his classwork because they don't have books. So it's really difficult to try and kind of get yourself involved to figure out a lot of what your kid is doing, especially if you have multiple children. If you have one, it's probably a little easier. I know that in asking my kids certain questions, there are things that I learned when I went through Buncombe County 25 years ago that they are not learning. And I don't necessarily know if that's specific to our county. I think that's really a nationwide epidemic. things in regards to civics are not taught the same way that they were when I was in school. One of the big things that I had to learn in my honors economics and law government class that I took my freshman year was every court case that went along with every amendment to the Constitution. I had to understand why that amendment came about. My kids don't know a lot of that, if any of it. So it's one of those things where, sadly, I think that the bigger problem is not necessarily the lack of curriculum, it's the lack of time. So often these teachers are teaching toward an end of grade test requirement, and they're not able to delve into subjects the same way. Then you also have the fact that now classrooms are set up very differently than they were even when I was in school, and the fact that children, regardless of level, are all put into one classroom. So your teacher, it reminds me of going back to the old schoolhouse days of where you've got a kindergarten through 12th grade and the teacher has to do it all. But it's on a much different level. So you've got teachers who are trying to teach children who are at very different levels of understanding, of comprehension, and they're trying to make one subject fit all of those things. And that's very, very hard to do. I think from a state level, one of the things that we're going to have to eventually look at in order to make that better is to bring assistants back into the classroom. When I was in school, you had an assistant up till the 4th grade. And now at my son's elementary school, they only have them up to 2nd. So these teachers need help. They really desperately do. That's one of the reasons why they're asking for volunteers so much, is they need extra hands. They need extra people to help them out, because it's very difficult, even with the low student to teacher ratio that we have in Buncombe County, for a teacher to be able to hit all the elements that they're required to hit and cover things the way that they need to be covered so everyone understands them the same way.
Well, we have an issue here in Buncombe County, as we do in all of North Carolina. The scores are terrible.
It's a nationwide problem.
It's last night we were talking, and math is at 60%, reading is at 60%, and the scores that came out in September of 2023, the schools were C's, D's, and F's with just very, very few exceptions.
Well, and I agree. I agree that that's a problem. And as a parent, and anybody who's looking to bring their student into our area or into our state, they're automatically, I know I do when I look at the possibility of changing areas or that kind of thing. You look at the school ratings. And it's one of those things where you have to question, okay, what is this? I mean, if you, like you said, if you do look at the entire state, it's a problem across the entire state. There are schools here and there, especially within Buncombe County. We do have a couple that are above that, but the majority of them are below that. And you have to understand the demographics between, the income level that is at each of those schools and the understanding of the setting in which the child actually lives in. There's lots of different little things that you have to look at to figure out what is playing into those scores. I don't think that you can say it's one thing. I don't think you can say that it's teachers who aren't teaching correctly. I don't think it's that at all. I know that in the changes that occurred with No Child Left Behind, there were a lot of standards that just changed. And I don't necessarily know if lowering the standard makes it any better. It's almost like grading on a curve, if that makes any sense. And so, I'm looking at it from the perspective of, I don't want to pass fault. I don't think that it's necessarily a student's fault or a teacher's fault or a school board's fault or the state's fault. I think it's a combination of all of these different things, whether it be lack of funding, whether it be lack of infrastructure, whether it be, a change in curriculum and what's expected. Children nowadays learn different things in different ways. The skill set that I was required to learn in high school is vastly different than the skill set that my kids are learning. So I think we have to understand, is that grading scale really giving you a proper picture of what these kids are walking away and learning? And I know, as someone who deals with individuals coming into the workforce, I struggle with finding individuals who have some of the basic skills that I walked out of high school with. But I also know that they have skills in areas that I didn't have. So I think we've got to really examine what it is that we're teaching and how it is affecting those scores. Because at the very least, we should have individuals graduating from high school with a proficiency in reading and math. Because those are two things that no matter what they choose to do, that they're going to have to be able to do. And I don't know who's going to be the charging force to fix that issue. And as much as I would love to say, yes, it's going to be the school board and we're going to champion all of these things, I don't necessarily know if that's within their purview in order to really address that situation. It's going to have to be a giant, connection between the state, the county, the Fed, the local.
Over the course of the last 20 or 30 years, it has become an issue of we need to get these kids into college. We need to get these kids into college. And we are severely lacking in plumbers, electricians, vocations. And in fact, some of the other candidates at other levels, like governor and lieutenant governor, are now looking at how do we make it cool to be an electrician or cool to be a plumber.
Well, I can tell you one thing, and I speak this from experience because my oldest son is involved in that program. Buncombe County has the most phenomenal vocational directive within our county. I cannot speak highly enough of it. And they are making leaps and bounds choices and options available to kids. Yes, you have your STEM high school and you've got the kids that are absolutely going to go down that college path. But my oldest son, is actually involved in automotives. He's gone through 3 different levels of automotive at the high school. He's got different certifications just from while being in high school. My second son is looking into masonry. There's lots of different options. And the best thing is that the county has decided to reach out to the community, and they are working with numerous large corporations, small businesses to actually create and work with local businesses to do internships and to do placement of jobs and all kinds of things like that. And I think Buncombe County is actually doing a really good job to make vocations cool again. And they're doing presentations at every single one of the schools for all kinds of different options. And because we absolutely need those things. And not everybody is cut out to go get a 4-year degree. So I can actually say that that's one thing they're really good at.
Well, it's not only that, but a lot of these vocations are
lucrative,
big dollars here.
They're very lucrative, and you don't end up with a bunch of student loan debt.
Yeah. Kids coming out of college with $200,000 in student loan is not necessarily a cool issue.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly.
Are there any? If you were to win, is there any one pet project that you would like to see moving forward that the schools could implement quickly or in a short period of time?
Going back to the concept of being tethered to devices, in Buncombe County, from kindergarten to 2nd grade, children have iPads, and from 3rd grade to 12th grade, they have a laptop. I am relatively a tech-savvy individual. I work on a computer all day long. However, I've never dealt with Apple products, so when my kids had iPads, it was very difficult for me to know how to use them. And I think that one of the things that could absolutely be implemented very, very quickly and pretty easily and not at too much of an expense to the county is to offer training sessions to parents at all schools in order to familiarize themselves with the technology that their children have and the programs that they use in order to access their curriculum. Because I think that there's a lot of people who are too prideful to ask for help, or they're not as interested, or they don't have that kind of relationship with their kid. But I know for a fact that my children alone are using 7 or 8 different programs across the 4 of them, and I can't keep them straight. And I don't know, how I access this here and how I access that there. There's a program that Buncombe County uses called Power School that I get emails from that I can access their grades. But as far as their actual curriculum, I don't know how to get into their machine to find that information. And I would feel really great if I had a 2-hour-long workshop on a random day that the county offered to sit down and say, hey, here's how you access this information. Here's how you can pull it up on your phone. Here's what your kid would see on a daily basis. Because at the end of the day, for me, I want to be able to sit down with my children at dinner and say, hey, what'd you do on this today? Or hey, what'd you do on that today? Or hey, I saw that you made a really great score on that test that you took today. And being able to have that interaction and understand what they're doing is going to create more involvement. And at the end of the day, it's going to be better for the student, the teacher, and the parent.
Changing subjects slightly to that, let's get back to a statement that you just made about spending time with your child at home. There are an awful lot of homes now that do not even do dinners together. When I was growing up, every night it was dinner with the family. Even if the worst thing that came out of it was, what'd you learn in school today? Nothing. What did you do today? Nothing. But at least there was some interaction between the parents and the kids. And I think a lot of that is missing today. What kinds of things would you do, or do you think it's important that we do to try and get that family unit to sit down at dinner just to hear them say, I did nothing in school today?
I think that one of the big things nowadays that I hear from friends of mine is that they're so busy. I do know that a lot of them have lots and lots and lots of extracurricular activities going on. But even those people actually, even if it's in their car, that they're eating in the car, they're having those conversations. I know that one of the things that I've seen within the county at a few different locations is homework assistance nights where the schools actually provide dinner. And they have homework assistants, and you can come in and you can sit down at a lunchroom table and have dinner given to you, and you can talk about education, you can talk about their classroom stuff, you've got tutors available, administrators, teachers, that kind of thing. Especially in certain areas in the county, I have seen that kind of explode as far as people really utilizing it. I think that one of the big things is really meeting people where they are and trying to figure out who would benefit from what. Not everybody's family is going to do the dinner table sit down. I'm lucky. I love to cook. I cook at least 6 nights a week for my family of 7, which includes my husband's mother. But not everybody can do that. And so not everybody wants to do that. But at the same time, being able to just have that, okay, everybody stop what you're doing, put away the technology, sit down and have a conversation. Like you said, and with boys, it's nothing. So trust me, I get it completely. If I can get 3 words, I'm happy. As long as they're out of their rooms, I'm good with it. So, I mean, it is what it is. And when you've got an age gap like I do, I have a 10-year age gap between oldest and youngest. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. But I think at the end of the day, it's really partnering with different community organizations, whether it's the YMCA, whether it's churches, whether it's the United Way. There's lots of different community organizations out there that we could partner with in order to meet people where they are, to see what needs are there in order to make a more cohesive family unit, even if it's not necessarily the nuclear family. If you've got a situation where you've got a single mother or a single father with 2 or 3 children or 1 child, and they might not necessarily be able to do dinner in a certain way, being able to give them a place to go that is where they could do that is really, really awesome. And I'm not saying that everything needs to be, a dinner situation, but it's amazing to me how something that simple can really create a conversation amongst people and really change the trajectory of where someone's day, week, month, year goes.
Are there any we're going to wrap up at this point, are there any last comments that you want to make so that people get to know who Sara is and vote for her for school board?
Again, my biggest thing is just the fact that I am a mom. First and foremost, I am a mom. And my entire goal for running this campaign and trying to get a place on the board is specifically to be a voice for people who do not necessarily have their perspective known. And I'm not going to say that I'm gonna cause a bunch of waves. I may sit there and listen a lot, but I want to be accessible to people. I want to be someone who, mom to mom, dad to mom, you can come to me and say, hey, my kid's having this issue, or hey, my kid's having that issue. And I'm going to look at it from the same perspective you do as a parent. And I still, that is the one thing I think that is majorly lacking on the Buncombe County School Board is there's not really a parent's voice being heard. So.
Well, the other issue is at this point with 7 members, I should say 6 members of one party, we're not getting a good dialogue. Yeah, balanced dialogue is good. Yeah, but even an alternative idea because I'm seeing this also on the county commissioners. It's the votes are 6-0, 7-0, 6-0, 6-0, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's got to be someone who has a different opinion.
Well, and that's the thing too, is, even if it's just me, I'm going to do things and vote my conscience as to how I think that the people who put me in that office would want me to vote. And even if it's 6-1, that's what I'm going to do. I refuse to go along to get along. If that's what I need to do, it may not make a hill of beans difference. But the way that I look at it is that one 6-1 vote, the next vote may be 5-2. And then you move to 4-3. And eventually you can finally get people to understand your perspective has meaning. And you might be amazed as to how that still small voice can push things in an opposite direction.
Well, I really appreciate you coming in today and having a conversation with us. And we will be getting this up very shortly. And we'll be getting it out to the moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas, and all the other voters in Buncombe County. So thank you very much for coming in and chit-chatting with us and helping us to fix Buncombe.
I greatly appreciate it. You guys keep up the great work.
Thank you.